Welcome in, everyone. I hope you guys are doing great wherever you're watching from today. We have an interesting situation that is unfolding. This has just come to light over the past, I'd say, 12 hours or so. It appears Ukrainian President Zelensky might have narrowly avoided a Russian assassination / drone strike on his plane while flying to Ireland. Details are still coming in. Fortunately, the crisis was averted. We are just now learning what has happened, and it goes to show, as I've said for a long, long time, this situation is far from over. It will only continue to get worse before it continues to get better. That is the fact of the matter, and there's no way around that whatsoever. So we're going to break down exactly what happened, as well as the updates between the Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner, meeting with Russian President Volodymyr Putin. Before we do, as always, please make sure to like and subscribe. Totally free. Huge boost to the channel. Comment with your thoughts below. Continue to be active in the comments. I want to hear all your thoughts. I want to hear what you guys think about this situation. Was it the Russians responsible? How should everyone respond? How will this war end? Let me know in the comments below. Hit that bell. All notifications turned on. You won't miss a thing. And then right here, Instagram, David_Hookstead, X, Hookstead. That is where you can find me on social media. So please give me a follow there. My DMs are wide open. Reach out with whatever you got. Now let's get into it. So we have had multiple developments with the Ukraine war just over the past few days. It is incredibly fluid. It is incredibly quickly changing. And we know that both sides are attempting to pull off any strike on the other that they possibly can in order to possibly turn the tide of the war in their favor. Now, we know that when the war started almost 4 years ago at this point, the Russians attempted to try to take Kiev. It was the belief was that they were going to just kill Zelensky and install one of their guys. You know, it's crazy that they actually weren't able to do that. I'm not saying that to be, make it downplay the severity of it, but everyone thought Kiev and the Ukrainian government would fold in about 72 hours to a week. Instead, we are now almost 4 years into this. And whatever you think about the war, the truth of the matter is the Ukrainians have fought incredibly hard. They have fought an incredibly brutal war. And yes, both sides have lost a ton of people, but when you were supposed to lose in a week and now you're going into year 4, there's something to be said for that. Well, it appears the Russians might not be done trying to take him out. So it says 4 identified military-style drones breached no-fly zone to target Zelensky's arrival in Dublin. The Gardaí are investigating whether the drones took off from land in London or from an undetected ship. This news article was published on Thursday, December 4th. You are watching this on Friday, December 5th. 4 unidentified military-style drones breached a no-fly zone and flew towards the flight path of the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's plane at sea near Dublin Airport late on Monday night, the journalists learned. The plane landed slightly ahead of schedule just moments before the incident happened at about 11 p.m. The drones reached the location where Zelensky's plane was expected to be at the exact moment had it been due to pass. The drones then orbited above an Irish naval vessel that had secretly been deployed in the Irish Sea for Zelensky's visit. Sources have said the drones took off from the northeast of Dublin, possibly near Howth, and flew for up to 2 hours. Inquiries are being carried out to determine whether the drones took off from land or from an undetected ship. It is not yet known who launched and controlled the drones or where the drones are now. Military-style drones are capable of a large range of functions. In this case, the fact that the drones had their lights on has led security forces to suspect that the aim was to disrupt the flight's arrival in Dublin. Garda Commissioner Justin Kelly was told about the incident in the early hours of Tuesday morning. It is understood that I don't even know what that is, the Taoiseach and the Ministers for Justice and Defense were told in the hours after it happened. It is not known if Irish authorities briefed the Ukrainian president's team. This is important. The incident mirrors similar drone incursions in Europe in recent months, which led to the closure of airports in Brussels and Denmark and caused significant security tension. Now, we know those drone incursions were carried out by the Russians. So they are saying here that these mirrored those drone incursions, which were carried out by the Russians, which would lead you to believe these were military drones. These were not civilian hobbyist drones. These were military drones. And so they are arguing that they mirrored that, which again points to it as being Russia. says Ireland's security services found that drones in the IRC were large, hugely expensive, military specification, and that the incident could be classed as a hybrid attack. Hybrid attack, again, is what we talk about when we talk about the Russians. Hybrid warfare is one of is the use of military, non-military tactics such as drone incursions, cyber attacks, sabotage, disinformation to weaken or destabilize opponents without declaring full-scale war. It is generally carried out by state-level military and intelligence services. Again, the Russians. It is understood that the drone missed the approach of Ukrainian leaders' plane and then turned its attention to L.E. William Butler Yeats, the Irish naval vessel deployed off of Dublin. So the plane came in just barely earlier than expected, and then the drones flew to the spot the plane would have been had it not been early. So if the drones hit the plane's going down, and then Zelensky is dead. This could easily be classified as a potential assassination attempt that Zelensky survived. Because if your plane gets smoked by drones, the fact of the matter is you're not gonna survive. The plane's going down. So this is crazy how brazen the Russians have gotten, that in a flight into Dublin, and Dublin, part of Ireland, city in Ireland, obviously is not part of NATO. So you can't classify this as an attack on NATO soil. It's not. Ireland is not part of NATO, but they're right there in the UK, which is obviously, I don't want to say hide behind that shield, but you guys understand what I'm saying here. So that is absolutely crazy to me. The Russians attempted to do this, and if they had succeeded, could have brought the plane down. But don't worry, we have more. Let's get into the meeting between Steve Witkoff and Putin. So right here, we have the report from Axios saying Trump says Witkoff and Kushner had a very good meeting with Putin. President Putin said on Wednesday that his advisors, Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, had a very good meeting with Russian leader Volodymyr Putin. His remarks were the first public comment by the U.S. about the 5-hour meeting in the Kremlin on Tuesday, which focused on Trump's plan for peace between Russia and Ukraine. It was not immediately clear what progress, if any, had been made. Putin's aides claimed no compromise had been reached on the main sticking point about Russia's territorial demands. What he's saying, Trump told reporters in the Oval Office on Wednesday that Witkoff and Kushner had a reasonably good meeting with Putin, but later said the discussions were very good. Their impression was that Putin would like to see the war ended. Their impression was very strongly that he wants to make a deal, Trump said, but he stressed that he didn't know if a deal was possible. So we will now watch from Putin directly himself. Sorry, not from Putin directly himself. We will now watch Trump's comment from that Axios report that you just saw. Let's roll.
On Ukraine, Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner were there last night with Vladimir Putin. Can you give us an update about those talks? It sounds from what the Kremlin is saying that they're not going to compromise. Can you tell us what you've...
I don't know what the Kremlin's doing. I can tell you that they had a reasonably good meeting with President Putin. We're going to find out. It's a war that should have never been started. It's a war. If I were president, we had a rigged election. If I were president, that war would have never happened. It's a terrible thing. But I thought they had a very good meeting yesterday with President Putin. We'll see what happens. It's, when I was in this office and I talked about no cards, I said, you have no cards. That was the time to settle. I thought that would have been a much better time to settle. But they, in their wisdom, decided not to do that. They have a lot of things against them right now. But you have President Putin had a very good meeting yesterday with Jared Kushner and with Steve Witkoff. What comes out of that meeting, I can't tell you, because it does take two to tango. Ukraine, I think we have something pretty well worked out with them. They're very satisfied considering. But the sad part is if I were president, no war would have ever happened. They would have had 100% of their territory. Nothing would have happened. It's a very sad situation. So think of this. Last month, 27,000 soldiers. 27. That's like you take a stadium, a football stadium, not an arena, and you cut it in half. 27,000 people died. Mostly young soldiers died last month, in 1 month. And that's the only reason I'm involved. We're not spending any money in the war. We're selling to NATO. We're not being ripped off like we were under Biden. Biden was handing everybody everything we had, giving them all the missiles, everything they wanted, free, no charge. He had no idea what he was doing. They're paying top dollar, full price for everything. Goes to NATO, and then NATO distributes it. NATO pays us. So it's not money. We would all, I think I can speak for everyone behind here. The politicians I know and the auto manufacturers are good people. They don't want to see 27,000 people die for no reason whatsoever.
So there's President Trump's comments about how we don't really know if the Russians even want a deal, which is true. So we've got them possibly trying to take out Zelensky's plane, and we've got President Trump saying, hey, they might not actually want a deal at all. So this is, again, a very fluid situation. And speaking of how bad the combat can be, if you guys saw this out of Ukraine, out of one of the encircled cities where the fighting is the fiercest, I'm going to throw this up on the stage. This shows Ukrainian forces in an intense gunfight.
Сдавайся! Прямо ти напротив нього. Тут через двох кидали гранати, у нього було укриття. Тут було мазати, гранати, 2-4 гранати полетіло прямо на нього.
So that right there, as you saw, was some of the footage of what was going on in this intense, brutal fighting. And that fighting will continue, especially if it turns out this drone attack tried to take out Zelensky, which I cannot believe. That is absolutely nuts, absolutely insane. But that's where we continue to be as of December 5th when you are watching this, or maybe you're watching it later, but the point remains. So I want to know what you guys think. Please make sure to let me know in the comments below. Let me know what you think of this whole situation. What is the reasonable end here? How much longer will it continue? What do you think about the drone attack attempt on Zelensky's plane? Let me know in the comments below. Please make sure to like and subscribe. Totally free. Cost you guys absolutely nothing at all. Huge boost. Hit the bell. All notifications turned on. And then right here, Instagram, David_Hookstead, X D Hookstead. That's where you can find me on social media. My DMs are wide open. Reach out with whatever you got. I'll see you all next time.